Hello. This is your mother speaking. Welcome to a discussion on music and philosophy. Your hosts are your mom and Stevie D. This is Sound Mind.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Justin.
Oh, welcome, Stevie D.
I feel welcomed.
You should. Welcome.
It's great.
You're welcome.
I usually am, and sometimes not.
That's probably pretty normal, actually. It's probably pretty normal.
I like the welcomed part better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being not welcomed is it's kind of fun sometimes too, though.
Yeah, like well,
It's like
you're
crashing
actually
a party.
You're actually not welcome. So, and then people are like, "Oh, cool."
I've never actually had anybody say that to me.
Yeah, neither have I. I feel like it'd be really funny.
How, like, politically incorrect to speak your mind in such an honest way.
Very. I don't know. Is that a rhetorical question?
I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah.
The truth to it.
Yeah. So here we are at this table.
This is us.
We found this table outside. Yeah,
the trash
it was there,
can.
and it had our names on it, and we were like, dude, that means that we gotta take it out, and it just put it right there, and then we'll sit at it.
And here we are sitting at it.
Yeah.
With you fine folks.
Yep. And
Let's jump in.
yeah, let's jump in, get our feet wet with some water.
Cannonball.
Some mind water.
Psh, mind water.
Yeah, so the big question today is not really a question, it's a statement, which is what the F is what we're talking about. What the fart.
What the fart?
Yeah, so last week we acknowledged that there's a discrepancy in our definitions of fart. I mean art.
Art, fart. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was a little out there. I could tell we weren't there yet. We didn't
It's better
land it.
than in there.
Yeah.
You gotta let the fart out.
Yeah, you got to get it out of there. Because if you keep it in there, it could lead to all kinds of health issues.
Right.
down
Which
the road.
we also discussed about art.
Mm-hmm. You got to get it out.
Gotta get it out.
Just like a fart. Got to let it out.
Like a fart. Did you anticipate that?
Nope.
You're very clever.
Not at all. I try. So that is our thing that we are going to be talking about, defining our positions, explaining our positions, dialoguing about things and stuff.
What is art?
What the heck?
And why
Why is art?
do we do it?
Where? How? When?
We also discussed briefly last week that, or acknowledged rather, that there was a difference in the way that we both think on this.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned losing many of friendships based on the debate. Or
Yep.
maybe you didn't say losing, but
Threatened.
threatened.
Yes.
So I'm excited. We have not had this conversation yet.
Or station. We haven't had the conversation.
conversation.
We haven't had the conversation. So neither thing has happened
Yeah.
yet.
So hopefully we'll have a podcast next week.
Yeah, we might not, but
And Justin isn't still in the hospital. Or me.
yeah.
You are like a black belt, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
Uh-oh.
I don't
Scary.
make it be-
I
I don't make
probably
it
won't
be
try
good
to
about
fight
it.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Someone else had to tell me that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But anyway.
Well, the first thing we wanted to do is we're always drinking coffee, and we wanted to talk about where it's from. So do you want
Yes.
to lead us off there?
Yeah, and this isn't just, actually, they don't know that we're doing this. This isn't just because it's in the same building. But I poured mine out of my disposable cup into my mug because I like that. But Awakenings Coffee is located in Zion, Spokane, which is on the corner of Wellesley and Addison. If you drive by the building, it looks like an old school. If you go around
Because
the
it
back,
was an old school.
It was an old school. If you go around the back, there's a parking lot in back. There's a coffee shop called Awakenings. Some of the best coffee in Spokane.
Yep.
Like I said, they don't know that we're doing this, but we are so grateful because when we come up to set up and we're running late and we didn't get a chance to get our Americano Latte Kappa, then we can just run down the hallway and get my juice on.
Throw some money down there, get some coffee, drink it, and then get the juices flowing, you know? All that brain juice.
Boar. Man, it's a rough start for me. Boy, Or the juice.
The juices are flowing today.
I was gonna say, boy, are the juices flowing, but obviously not enough.
They will be.
Okay.
They will be.
Woo!
So I was excited, and I have been for some time. I'm not sure why I haven't. Sorry, there's a hair floating right by my face. I don't know why I have not said this yet, but there is a new Raconteurs album. I don't know if that is actually how you pronounce it. I believe it is a French word, raconteur for storyteller. So actually, I know that's not how you pronounce it because it's French,
Right.
and I'm American. So I'm going to do it wrong. But, yeah. Great bands. I loved their first album. Their first album is one of my favorite rock albums. It was called something. I think it was called... Crap. I don't remember. That's actually not what it was called. That would be a bad name for an album. Crap, I don't remember.
Look it up. See if you find it real quick.
Yeah. Actually, I've got my...
Rack on Tour, which means storyteller.
Yes.
That's a great name.
But yeah, their second album I did not like as much. But I do love their first album very, very much. So I almost called their first album Steady As She Goes, which was one of the tracks on the album, but it's actually called Broken Boy Soldiers.
Broken Boy Soldiers.
Which is a play on Broken Toy Soldiers, which is what I almost called it the second time when I was like brain farting.
Right.
I almost called it Broken Toy Soldiers.
And then you called it crap, although you really like it.
I really like it. So I'm a complicated man, is what I'm saying. So that's coming out in 2019. I don't think they have a date for that yet, but I'm excited. Recently, Jack White's been a little hit and miss for me. I did not... A lot of people really loved his new album. I was not a huge fan of it. Could not get into it, and I know that that is an incorrect opinion, but that is the opinion that I have. Could not get into it. The last album they did that I really enjoyed, or that Jack White did, I should say, that I really, really enjoyed, was Dead Weather, actually. So he had another side project. I don't know. He's got a lot of bands. So he has his solo, he has Dead Weather, and then he has the Raconteurs. And so the Raconteurs haven't done an album in 10 years, but he's done a couple with the Dead Weather. I really like their first two. Again, the third, not a huge fan of either. There was some great tracks on it, but as a whole, I didn't think it was super solid. But again, I know that is an incorrect opinion, but what the heck? That's what I think. So that is the thing that I'm excited about. I saw Spider-Verse. When this comes out, Spider-Verse will have been out for a few months.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse is the whole title.
Spider-Man is my favorite hero.
With good reason.
Yeah, has been for a long
Great
time.
superhero.
It's the best.
So relatable.
Yeah.
So witty.
And I like his powers.
Yeah, he's a really cool power set.
Swings, like, how cool. You just get to swing around.
Yeah.
Like a big swing. That's how you get around.
Yeah, he's a swinger.
It just sounds really fun.
It does. I could go on and on about Spider-Man, so if I go on too much, let me know. But I love his power set because there's no situation in which... Okay, so this is a little bit in depth. So, just as a offshoot.
Go on,
but
geek
Miles
out.
Morales, right, is in this movie. And I do not like his power set as much. So he has the typical Spider-Man powers. He sticks to stuff
Okay.
a little too well.
Yes.
And, you know, spider sense, all
Does
that
he
stuff.
shoot webs?
He has web shooters.
So it's the mechanical ones, or
Yes,
okay.
mechanical. But he has two extra powers that I know about that are in the film. I'm not familiar with his comics, but yeah. So in the movie, he can. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Which won't be.
It won't be by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
But just in case.
Yes.
If you didn't want to know this,
Tune out.
tune out. But he can turn invisible, and he can shoot electricity. Now, the electricity thing I don't mind as a power. It makes him a little more interesting and stand out on its own. The invisibility thing, though, I do have trouble with because it doesn't really explain the limitations. Because there's no situation where being invisible would be bad. Any combat situation, being invisible is better. So it's like, why wouldn't he always be invisible? You know what I mean? So I don't know what the limitations are. Yeah, so I don't really like that so much, but it's a great movie. Phenomenal.
Yes. I have a hard time with stuff like that just for the sense I'm pretty loyal. And when I start getting into a storyline or a character, when there's like multiverses,
Yeah.
stuff like that, sometimes I have a real hard time with it. Like even the Ninja Turtles, they came out with the new, Ninja Turtle movies that aren't new anymore. Ninja Turtles never had noses ever. Okay, I did not watch the first movie just because they put a nose on a Ninja Turtle,
Yeah.
and that doesn't belong there.
I didn't watch them because Michael Bay is garbage. But
Wow.
yeah,
Tell us how you really feel.
well, Michael Bay is garbage.
You
I
heard it?
don't know if he's made a good movie in like 15 years.
Ouch.
Like honestly, I honestly don't. I can't think of a single movie that he's made that has scored higher than like a 30 on like Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic. But yeah, so he definitely is not my favorite filmmaker. Not a huge fan of Michael Bay. But yeah, great movie. The music specifically super good. I love the Prowlers theme. I love the little tidbit. If you didn't know, they made the siren sound when he gets close. There's a siren sound that happens, and the original sound is an elephant, and then they like modulated the crap out of it and like filtered it and all this stuff, and then turned it into this crazy like roar siren sound, and it's awesome. Yeah, the music is amazing. I don't remember the guy's name that does the music. The internet, am I right? I'm just gonna Google it really quick.
Do that.
But he
Deserves a shout out.
he does deserve a shout out. But yeah, he does a great job. There's in this universe, Spidey did a Christmas album. So there's a scene at the end of the movie, or I guess during the credits, so it's not really a scene, but during the credits, one of the Christmas songs plays. So funny. I enjoy it quite a bit. Yeah. Are you planning on seeing it?
I might, now that you've pumped it up again. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm not a huge fan when I'm really connected to a character and they change him a lot. I don't love that, and so I saw some of the previews, and yeah, didn't feel very excited for the movie, but some of the things you shared with me make me a lot more excited.
They do a better job with Peter Parker than almost probably any other Spider-Man property. that I've
Interesting.
seen.
That's great.
At least big budget, like outside the comics, outside of the live action films.
Right.
So Daniel Pemberton is the name of the guy
Who does the score?
Who does the score. I'm looking at his like all the music he's done. I haven't really seen much. He did Black Mirror, one episode of Black Mirror. Yeah, besides that, I'm not seeing anything that I recognize, but he does a great job
Interesting.
on Spider-Man.
Daniel Pemberton, be on the lookout. Sounds like, he's probably been around, but he's starting to make a splash.
Splashing it up,
Splashing it up.
just like we are.
That's right. We are
getting our
past
feet wet.
the getting our feet wet part. We're
Yeah.
splashing it up.
Yeah,
Cannonball!
yeah. I was thinking more like schoolgirl laughing, like splashing each other with water, but we can cannonball. It's fine.
Well, I'll cannonball and you do the girl.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you say, schoolgirl?
Yeah, I'm as giddy as a French schoolgirl. I don't know.
It's so
if
sad. So sad comments like that sometimes because it's
Yeah.
like, run like a girl.
Yeah,
You know, girls are awesome.
it's true. It's funny because I think that I think it's a World War II thing. The like a French schoolgirl. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
get-
pulling stuff out of my butt now.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. For some reason, that's in my brain. I also read an infuriating. Maybe I should not be infuriated. You can tell me, but I read this article on Rolling Stone, and the headline is "Why Mainstream Rock Sucked in 2018." And my answer to that, before even reading the article, is because music sucked in 2018. Not just rock, but all mainstream music. No, not all mainstream music. A lot of mainstream music. A lot of music in general.
Right.
Let's be honest. We've reached this point of, I don't know, we've just flooded the market. We have absolutely flooded the music market. Because not only do we have access to all music that has ever happened, we also have access to new music and new artists all the time. So we're devaluing the currency of music.
Well, the technology, the access for like regular people to be able to record and make music is way more accessible, way more affordable.
Absolutely.
So then people with no experience or knowledge, or a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, are getting started in it, and therefore more even flooding the market.
Yeah.
Not necessarily on a mainstream level, but...
And in terms of platform as well, because before you had to get someone to publish your stuff. You can publish your own dang stuff. You could just go on YouTube and just post your music. I mean, it would probably be not a good idea because people could just steal it, but you could.
You don't have to have copyrights to post your music on iTunes?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think Spotify you do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like, they won't
I'm not
let
sure.
you unless you have the number. I can't remember what they call that number, but you have to put the...
I honestly don't know too much about that aspect of it, the copyright part, but either way. Anyway, back to the article before I get too completely off track here. So I read through this article, and it's talking about how rock used to be so great, right? It's talking about how it used to be so authentic and all this stuff. But he's naming all these arena rock bands. And I think, honestly, that's just not true. Like, mainstream, like, arena rock has never been genuine. It's never been, like, more emotionally gripping. It's just mainstream rock. Like, it's super surface level. It's not, I don't know. I mean,
What is he talking about? A specific time period, or who are we looking at?
He referenced Led Zeppelin, who, I mean, nobody's got a problem with Led Zeppelin. He referenced Van Halen, like all of these, you know, big rock acts, Pink Floyd. Mm-hmm. What made those bands good was that what they were doing was not mainstream rock, right?
Right.
And then it became mainstream rock, and that's why it's not good anymore. It's mainstream. So all of the bands that followed in their footsteps are, in, like we've talked about before, they're just copying something that works at that point.
Right.
And that's not appealing. Like, it's just not, it falls flat. It doesn't come across well when bands do something interesting and new. And we keep talking about Nirvana because it's absolutely true. They took rock and they made it do something it didn't do before.
Right.
So that's what makes bands interesting, is they take a thing and then they twist it, they turn it on its head, they flip it around. I don't know, they do something fun with it, and then you can't find that anywhere else because it's unique to them. And then you listen to it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. How come I didn't know about these guys? What? And then that's what it is. Man, yeah. So that's my criticism of the article, is it seemingly, I don't even know who wrote it, but it seems to fall into this thing, this trap of, like, looking at the rock charts, right? And you're thinking, well, how come there's no rock bands on the rock charts anymore? Like, where are they at, fam? And I'll tell you where they at. They're all done. They're all, like, in their 70s.
Right.
You know,
And even if they were on the charts, that doesn't mean it's good rock.
Yeah.
As we talked about, if you didn't see the last episode, it was the episode before. We've kind of been diving into this. Is pop good? We discussed about that whole time. So, yeah. What was about? There was a comment made in that in reference to the look. Do you remember what that comment was? The look of a rock band or a rock star.
Yeah, I was referring, I think, specifically to. I don't remember the name of the band, or even what band it is. It might have been the Clash. Not totally sure, but it's an early punk band, and they all dressed like dapper gentlemen, just normal guys. Their band wasn't taking off. And some producer somewhere said, all right, let's just cut up your clothes, make you look trashy, and then just present yourselves as if you do not give a rip, because he saw a trend coming, and he was taking advantage of that trend. So even some of the first big punk bands that were like, yeah, they revolutionized the industry because they just didn't give a crap. Actually, they gave a lot of craps. They gave many craps were given, and it was all done to sell a product. So even our most cherished bands that seemingly went against the mold and defied authority, like F you authority, yeah, they were just buying into a trend to sell albums.
Really.
You know,
These people weren't, I mean, it's not like a
I probably
matter of did they go into the punk clubs or the underground and see any kind of original things happening?
it's been a long time since I've heard this, so I don't remember the exact order, but I think it was happening. I think it was kind of on the rise, and this guy, it was, if I remember correctly, it was one of the first guys to start what became EMI.
Okay.
He was cashing into a trend there. Like
Gotcha.
he saw a trend coming. He informed this band. I think was the Clash. I don't even know how to Google that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can fact check me. I might be talking about a different band, but then the Clash popped into my head for some reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were buying into a trend. It's all stupid. Life sucks. That's basically what I'm saying.
Was there a reference to the look of a rock star or a rock band in this article that you read?
Possibly.
Okay. Well,
I don't remember.
all right.
I can look it up if you want.
No, not necessarily. I've seen it referenced before. To me, again, we talked about this earlier before we started. You know, music, and if it's a good representation of a specific genre, I believe should be based upon the music itself, not what they look like or what they wear. Again, you know, there was a time period where if you were a rock star, you need to wear a leather jacket.
Yeah.
If you were a punk rock, you know, you had to have the spikes, the ripped up jeans, or
You got to do heroin.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're not doing heroin, you do not know what is up.
Exactly. So let's just, at least in my opinion, strong opinion, I base my opinion on what the music sounds like.
Yeah.
To label it, is it good? Does it represent that genre well? What's rock? I don't really care what you're wearing or what sex you are, who you are. What does it sound like? And go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of my favorite bands have like this great dichotomy of it sounds like crap, but they look great, or they sound like this really classy band, but they look like trash. There's a great story from Kansas, the progressive rock band. They played in Japan. It was right when they got big, and their big track was Dust in the Wind, and so they got booked to this theater in Japan. It's super nice. And the audience, because they'd only heard Dust in the Wind, which you may be familiar with, it's just like
absolutely.
vocals, 2 guitars, violin. It's very chill. Most of their music is not that, right? It's like pretty
Right.
high energy, complex, technical, pretty loud. So they come in and they're wearing like overalls. They look like they haven't shaved in years. They got big beards, hair is just going everywhere. And they look out at this crowd and they're all wearing like suits. They got their wives, in their black gowns. And they're like, oh, they were not prepared for this. It was a very different environment from what they expected. Yeah, so that's just a funny little anecdote there. They were judging the band based on the sound of one song, and they were incorrect. So let that be a lesson. I don't know exactly what the lesson is, but it's there.
Yeah. Well, it's another good topic, which just happens every time we meet. Marketing has its place in your music production. You want your music to be heard, and I mean it's a proven fact. How you market that will either add to that or take that away.
Yeah.
And where's that line?
Mm-hmm.
Again, my opinion when it comes to that is if you're selling out to sell more records, then you don't care as much about the art form. So what's your main goal? What's your motive? Is
Yeah.
it to make a lot of money? Did you start it to concern yourself with the art? I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but
Yeah.
maybe we come back to marketing on a different time, because that is something that we need to learn how to do and stay true to ourselves while
Yeah.
we do it.
And I think 21 Pilots does that pretty well. Is that they definitely lean into the marketing aspect when they sell their albums. They kind of go into this color scheme thing with each of their albums, more so with Blurry Face and the new one, Trench. But they lean into, like, there's a storyline to it. They lean into almost to sell merch to some degree, but it's also part of the narrative of the album. So I find that interesting for sure. And we can, like you said, we can talk about that later. But yeah, quick little tidbit there. Yeah. Anything else interesting you want to talk about before we get into this? Before we end our friendship?
I say we jump into this.
All right.
Yeah. I don't anticipate friendships ending.
Yeah. Well,
I grew up fighting my friends at different times, and we always liked each other more after. Sometimes it took a couple weeks.
Sure.
You know, so I'm not saying there won't be a fight, which will be awesome, I'm sure, for people watching.
That's why we're recording this with a camera.
We might have to change our angle before we start throwing blows.
Yeah, or move the table.
Definitely move the mics.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's jump in.
So do you want me to just lay some groundwork?
Yeah.
So you said, I believe on our last episode, that basically, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you thought that art was something, just basically anything that you create is art. Would you say that that's an accurate summary?
Well, I guess what I meant was anything coming out, any expression coming out of the creative spirit, if you will, creative heart, could be termed as art.
Right. So I guess that partly depends on what you mean by creative spirit. Because, there's like the engineering aspect, right?
Right.
You're designing a plane, say.
Right.
And there's a more or less aerodynamic model. In that sense, I would argue that your primary objective, not that it delegitimizes it in any way, but your primary objective is not to express yourself, but to create the best possible outcome, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I would say that does not qualify. That in and of itself is a friendship ending statement. I do not think that qualifies as art. To get into the nitty gritty a little bit more, so let's go a little more broad, and then I'll kind of go in.
All right.
So in broad strokes, I would say that to qualify as art, it needs to have a narrative that is personal to the creator. And that's pretty broad, so let me lean into that a little bit more. So if you're writing a film, right, let's say for a series, right? So let's say Avengers 7 or whatever, if that ever happens. You're hired to write Avengers 7. There's a lot that you have to pull from in order to write Avengers 7 because it is a seventh in a series. But if what you end up writing is informed by your own experience, it's still yours to some degree, right? You have to continue certain plot lines and whatnot. So there's less, I would say, availability for that to happen. There's less opportunity, but that's still going to come through in some respect, right? Your own experience, in order to keep it genuine, you need to funnel your own experience into the film. And that is what will inevitably happen if you're doing it from that point of view. It's really hard to write something that you have not experienced. So that's that perspective. If you're looking at it from like a songwriting perspective, I think this is why a lot of pop does not jive with me. A lot of pop artists are simply performing a song written by someone else, which isn't wrong. I don't think that covers are wrong. I don't think that that's bad in any way. But it doesn't, like, bands that cover songs and then you hear them play the song and it comes across well, it's generally because I think that the song affected them on some deep level when they were a kid maybe, or the first time they heard it or whatever. So when they cover it, what you're hearing is how that song affected them. So it's still personal. It still comes across as being something that, even though it's a regurgitated song, right? They just ate it and then bleh it out again. There's something of theirs in it.
Yeah, it's like that. You mentioned, I think last episode, being influenced by someone else's creativity and letting that impact your creativity isn't necessarily copying. That's not wrong.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, even if you're doing a song that's somebody else's, it's not copying because you're bringing how that song affected you and throwing that into the presentation.
Yeah. So that, I would say, still qualifies as art. So this one's a little bit more. This one's a little bit more nebulous, a little bit more
nebulous,
or less nebulous, I should say.
What is nebulous?
Like, I don't know if I'm using it correctly, but what I mean when I say less nebulous, so nebulous being like kind of out there, a little bit less. It's harder to define, I guess.
Okay.
So to get more to the specifics of it, I don't know. So if you're performing in an orchestra, I don't know if you're an artist. So my reasoning for this is, and there's probably like a lot of gasps happening, because yes, you are performing art, absolutely. A song is art for all intents and purposes. A commercial jingle, that's another thing. I don't know that a commercial jingle is art, but we'll get into that. So if you're performing in an orchestra, you're taking a song that was written by another individual, right? So it is art, right? They wrote it all out. They arted it. However you want to say that. You are performing their art. That doesn't. You're just doing what the artist needed you to do for the art to exist.
Right.
Right. It doesn't leave any room for your expression. It's either you're playing it how it's written with everyone else, or you're not. Right.
So let me just chime in.
Yeah.
Because if we go off based on your last statement regarding if you're doing a cover and that cover has affected you personally, and then we go back to the orchestra, that would still apply. If
for the conductor. So the conductor.
How would it not for a musician?
Well, because the musician is taking the direction of the conductor, right? So if you're not doing what the conductor is saying, you're doing it wrong. So the conductor is telling you how to play, when to play.
To some degree. Tempo.
Right.
Dynamics at some point. But not the way the note is presented always. You know, you can add more breath, less breath, hold it out.
There's little fluctuations, but if you go too far in either direction, it becomes error, right? It becomes, oh, you didn't play with the orchestra. Like, oh, now you're by yourself, and now you're out of sync. You're playing it wrong, right? It doesn't leave a lot of room for creative expression by necessity, I would say, right? Because if everybody in the orchestra is kind of doing their own thing, like, I think it should sound like this. Okay, everyone play now. And then it's just this disaster, like, well, I think it should be played at a slower tempo. And, you know, it would just be unlistenable and uninteresting in every respect. But by playing it cohesively, you're making it good, right? Everybody's coming together, and that's harder. Right? That's harder to do because you're trying to get everybody on the same page. This is the vision for this. Let's all play it together. That's hard. That's not a simple thing. That's not an easy thing. And that's why they get paid the big bucks, right? You know, if you're in a big, well-known orchestra, you can make, you know, money, 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 money.
Yeah.
So,
great.
So that's not a bad thing. That doesn't devalue it at all. You know, they are the superior musicians in almost every respect. Like, do you honestly think that a first chair violinist is not as good of a musician as Katy Perry, like, shut up, you know?
Right. Again, but you're talking about, I guess a good separation would be talking about what is art and what is an artist.
Right.
There could be many artists in the orchestra,
Yeah.
but it's possible that it's a performance and art is not happening through the artist.
Yes. I would say that each of them could be artists. I think that it's not a disqualifier, but at the same time, recognizing this is not about me. This is not about what I have created. This is about the performance, right? We're playing someone else's work a certain way, and that way is dictated by the conductor. So
Yeah, but I would say that not everybody in the orchestra is feeling that way, that it's not about them. You know, again,
Yeah.
referencing back to the artist who's doing a cover,
right.
you know, that song might be very personal to them. That composition might be very personal.
Yeah.
You can even look in an orchestra and see members of the orchestra that aren't looking at the paper, and their instrument has become, you know, they know what the music is and they know where they're going, but their soul is fully engaged.
Yeah,
in what they're
absolutely.
playing.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. I still don't know that I would qualify it as
Art.
being, in the same, it's not, if it is, it's not in the same way.
Okay, so back up just so I understand and everyone
Yeah.
knows. The guy doing a cover or the girl doing a cover and putting themselves in there, can that be art and the orchestra is not? If they're...
I would say that it kind of, the same rules apply, right? Just because you're a 5-piece rock band playing a cover doesn't mean that it's art, depending on the situation. So, like, a lot of times, okay, a great example, a solo artist that just needs a band to play what he tells them to play, right? If there's no, like, if you're just taking what's, say, the album already exists, right? And the solo artist is just saying, I need you to play it exactly how it is on the album, there's no room for your creative expression there. He's just telling you, this is your job, play the notes. Again, that doesn't devalue the musician, but it's not the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same thing as, okay, everybody, here's my music, but we're going to make it our own.
Right. But that doesn't, again, it doesn't discredit the music, the piece, as being art. Because
Right, the piece is still art.
artist could have wrote it. It's like Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel.
Sure.
He wasn't the only one painting.
Right,
For sure. You
right.
know? So even though they were doing exactly what he said,
Right.
I would imagine,
Right.
it's still, the overall is still art.
It is still art, yes. It's just not, and all the people could be artists, but what's the word?
It's like the people in the band that are playing are more in performance mode than in artist mode. So they're replicating the music.
There's a word that's perfect for that,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure what it is. I'm not landing on it. But basically, you can be an artist, but that doesn't mean that in that context you are an artist. It means that you're filling a role.
You're a performer.
Right, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
I don't think at all.
Which is, I mean, honestly, with all the things that we've talked about, this is great. We talked about pop music, being good or being bad, being on the top 40, whether that makes you a bad or good artist or musician, or
Yeah.
we talked about marketing and not selling out, and here we are. We're talking about performance and art.
Yeah.
And to be honest, in the music scene, it's good to be both.
Yeah.
And we need to be both,
Yeah.
probably. So anyway, this is great.
Yeah, I think that if you're playing music, obviously you need to be able to play it well live. But it should be a physical performance as well. And this is kind of a little bit off topic. But if you're showing up physically to a place, and then if you could just close your eyes and get the exact same experience as if you were listening to the album, it's kind of like, what's the point of paying the $20 or whatever it was to get in? More if it's a big artist, you know, you could spend like 60, $80. It needs to be another layer as well, which would be the physical performance.
So I just want to back up.
Yeah.
So you're an engineer, and you are designing a new aircraft.
Right.
And who knows? Maybe that was a kid who looked at aerodynamics, didn't even understand his love and passion for curvature, right? But just would just stare at cars and, you know, different things that were aerodynamically shaped and daydream, and then he becomes an engineer,
Right.
with a passion to get people farther distance, maybe expand the gas tank. I don't know. You know, he has a passion to accomplish a mission.
Yeah.
And it's very personal. Like, it's something that he imagined, he dreamed, you would never know unless you heard his story. So would that classify? Is he an artist? Is that art?
Right. I would say no.
Then I would say you need to offer more arguments.
Well, okay. So here's part of it. I think that we, as a culture, we love art, and so we want to elevate things to art because we love art so much. But I would argue that just because it's not art, does not devalue it, right? So an important thing is an important thing, regardless of whether or not it's art. So let's get that out of the way. It's not like I think that art is the only thing that matters. If you're not an artist, you're dead to me. Right? That's not what I'm saying. I just don't see how that's the same thing. Right. Because when you're designing an aircraft, right, as an example, not that I know much about how to design an aircraft beyond just that there are people that do that somewhere out there.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Shout out to you aircraft designers.
You're the best. Oh my God.
You're an artist to me. Justin says no.
Not so much to me. So there's either a right way to achieve your goal or a wrong way. So, and there might be some options in there, like some problem solving. We could either solve the problem this way or that way. Oh, it's too heavy. We need to lose some weight. We could do this. We could do that. But I don't see how that qualifies as anything but just being that, just problem solving. Your expression, as it were, which is what would make it art, right? The idea that it's this person's expression is not necessarily a creative expression. Going back to what I said earlier about narrative, right? So if someone is saying, build this aircraft, that's your goal, right? The goal is not to express yourself, it's to do the task that you need to do. I think construction is a great example as well. So I did construction for a while. That's another arena which a friend of mine would say qualifies as art. I would say it does not, because while, again, there's room for you to problem solve in certain ways, it's not about you. It's not about your creative expression. It's about performing a task to the expectations of a third party.
What about architecture?
I think there is more room in architecture for it to be art, but that doesn't necessarily qualify.
But could?
It could, but, like, okay, Sistine Chapel, right? We've already established that as an example. That would qualify, I think, because there's a narrative there that is very obvious upon looking at it. So it needs a narrative to qualify to me. To skip over to another example, what was my example? I thought about it a while ago. I thought it was super great. I was like, dude, let's skip on right over to this other example. You'll understand. And I forgot what it was.
Hopefully it comes back.
Right. Designing a logo. Right. Perfect example. This is something that requires artistic skill, right? You need to be able to, it's probably going to be a digital program, but you need to be able to, you need to have a knowledge of color, and basically you need to be able to perform in a creative arena, an artistic arena even, to be someone that designs a logo. I don't think that that's art, right? Because there could be a narrative there, but it's a narrative, it's a corporate narrative. It's not your narrative, right? You can sneak it in there, but you'd be hard pressed to find a narrative in a logo that tells a story beyond what the company is trying to sell, right?
Whether or not you can find the narrative is irrelevant to me.
Sure.
Because I don't have to tell you what the narrative is. You could, as far as I'm concerned, you could be eating my spaghetti sauce, and the narrative is, I got cut off in traffic, I almost got out of my car and punched this guy out, but I pulled it in, and then I was meeting after meeting, and then I got chewed out at my job and almost let go. And then I came home, and I had the opportunity. My kids, I walked in the door, and they were like, Daddy, Daddy. And I was like, I can't handle another thing. I'm about to blow up. And I swallowed hard, and I gave them a hug, and I told my wife I loved her. And I said, you know what? I'm going to cook dinner tonight. And I started getting stuff ready, and I began to release all the frustration of my day. And I'm just like, maybe it's not even frustration. Maybe it's just, I just got into a creative zone, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this spice instead of this. I'm going to cut my garlic different. And I'm just like processing my day over this pot of spaghetti sauce.
Sure.
And they eat it, and they love it. Or, you know, 2 of my kids probably don't because they don't like red sauce. But
Heathens.
they'll grow into it.
Yeah.
They better.
Don't worry.
Or I won't claim them as my own. No, I'm just kidding. But they will never know the narrative of that spaghetti sauce. Well, they might because they're my family.
Right.
But
well, I would say that the narrative needs to be, on some level, observable to qualify as art. So, and again, this is a division a lot of times. So I've had this conversation a lot of times, and people are like, how dare you? Like, oh my God, how could you even say that? I don't think it, but for me personally, I don't think it's that crazy of a thing to suggest. But I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
So I think that you need to be, okay, great example. An instrumental, right? Because someone could say, well, Justin, you don't know what the narrative is because there's no words. Or what if it's in a different language? You don't know what the narrative is then. That is true to some degree, right? I don't have context for the emotions that are being presented, but I can still empathize with those emotions. They're apparent enough that I can experience what the person, if the song is well written, I can experience the same things that that person experienced. And that's what you are trying to get across, right? So it has achieved its goal as art, I would say, right? So you're experiencing the same thing that this person has experienced. So largely, I would say, to add a bullet point to my definition, it needs to be, you need to be able to empathize with it on some level. And that's part of why it being a personal experience is so important, because you can't present something in a way that's easy to empathize with if you haven't experienced it on some level, which is why I think romantic subplots are so prominent in film, is because everybody knows what it's like to love or not love someone. And, you know, to understand a romantic subplot, you don't even need to have experienced romance. It's just a relationship thing, right? So and who hasn't experienced a relationship, right? If you were born, you have experienced a relationship. You have a relationship with your mother, regardless of whether or not you're estranged or I never knew my mom, whatever.
Right.
You still were born at one point, therefore you have a mother, right? There's a relationship there, regardless of what happened after that. So I guess someday we might be growing people in labs, in which case I don't even know where to start there. But yeah, so that's kind of that's the edges of my argument, I would say, the outskirts. We've kind of come around, kind of looked at it from outside. So if my position is a town, right? We've kind of walked around. We've walked around our towns.
Yes.
Right? We've kind of looked inside. Oh, look at that. There's some people in there. They're doing some stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Or that's not a town. That one is.
Right. That's not a town. That's a town. You silly townsman.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. How do we enter these towns?
How do we enter these towns?
Or non-towns?
Well, let me just, I want to specify my town. I'm not going to go too much into it. At this point in time, I would say my perspective is if you express yourself out of that creativity, then what is produced is art. That is how that's currently my perspective.
Yeah.
Whether right, wrong, or indifferent up till this point, if I'm talking about art, that is my reference point.
Sure.
And so we're not on the same page with that, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight you.
Not yet.
Yeah. No, I don't need to fight.
Yeah. I don't need to fight.
I don't even need my perspective to be the same in a year because that never happens anyway. Usually the things I think. So, yeah.
There's a quote. Sorry to cut you off, but there's a quote about like strongly held opinions that I don't remember. But the gist is, you should hold on to opinions loosely. Like don't hold them like super tight.
Right.
Because if somebody yanks it from your hand unexpectedly, that's gonna hurt.
Right.
But if you just hold it with an open palm, it can come. It can go. It can come back. Oh, there it is. It's gone.
Yeah.
So you can let your opinion evolve.
Right.
So don't hold on to anything too tightly. I realize that this is a more than slightly divisive opinion because it does cut things from what would generally be considered
Anytime
art.
you draw a specific line, it's
So,
you have to make a decision. Yeah. I would say this too, loosely but firmly, if that makes any sense at all.
it's like a half
Don't
firm.
clinch it like your life depends on it,
Yeah.
but firmly, so that like if somebody presents different ideas, it's not going to pull it out of your hand either.
Yeah.
The requirement for you to shift your thinking takes a little bit of nuzzling, if you will.
Yeah, let's nuzzle it up, dude.
With that said, hopefully your opinions are built on something, not just this is the way I think and I'm right about everything.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you say that because I don't even like the word opinion. It's become kind of like a buzzword, which is why I keep using it. But the definition of opinion is not very flattering. It's a position held without facts or knowledge. So it's like something like, well, my opinion, meaning the position that I have, not based on anything.
Wow.
Right. So it's not a super flattering term. We kind of use it in a different way.
Right.
Like we kind of just mean my position. Right. That's what we mean when we say opinion. But it's actually really not a very flattering term at all. But
No, that's good to know.
yeah. So I try to move away from it, but it's difficult because it's so common. You know, it's just people say it over and over.
So, okay, you're talking about the edges of the town.
Yeah.
And then you were moving in.
I want to move in. It's kind of hard though. It's kind of hard to define more so than I have.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just keep bringing up specific examples and being like, well, that's art. That's not art. That's, but as long as you feel like you have a pretty good idea and as long as you feel like these fine individuals have probably ascertained what I mean.
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty happy with how I've presented it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. We didn't necessarily change each other's minds. And if you guys have, we'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Comment below.
Or
whatever,
around, depending on the platform, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear what you guys think and be a part of it. And yeah.
Yeah, and you can criticize my opinion.
Yeah, or
all
mine.
night long.
Or mine.
All night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go from there. Our topic for next week is going to be, is 4 minutes, 44 seconds a song? Wait, is that the name of it?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
It's that one music track that's just silence the entire time. It's just a series of rests.
Oh, there's no sound happening at all?
Yeah.
It's 4 minutes and 44 seconds.
I think it might have been 3 minutes. Crap. I don't remember the name of it.
Hey, you know what? It's good. It's good. That's a good question. I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah. So
how can you judge rests if there is never a moving part?
So this this is a great question. This is another one of the questions that ruins friendships.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to get into it right now. Where are we at on time? When
I
do
don't
we
know.
start?
I'll check.
Okay,
And then
we're gonna check.
We'll make some cuts.
Yeah. Or not, because maybe it's just better to leave it natural. Like, we're walking around, we're talking about what's going on, talking about where we're at on time.
We are at 55 minutes.
55 minutes. Do we have time to go into what defines a song? What defines music? Do we have time for this, Stevie? Is this going to be a long episode, or should we leave it to next week?
Let's go. I don't
Okay.
mind if we cut some stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, let's get this going on. So first of all,
there's probably some things that.
I need to actually figure out what it's called first.
Okay. Well, then we'll know where our cut in spot is, and then you can ask the question over again. What time do you have?
It is 11:50.
Okay, let's go off.
Poop. Okay, so it's 4 minutes 33 seconds. So it's a 3-movement composition.
All right, let's just start over because I think we're gonna cut a piece.
Oh, okay.
Present the whole thing just from the get-go again in regards to this, and then we'll go off on that.
Okay, so what we have here is a musical piece called 4 minutes 33 seconds. Supposedly, it's a 3-movement composition by an American composer, John Cage. It is written for any instrument, and the score instructs the performer not to play their instruments during the entire duration of the piece throughout the 3 movements. So it's just rests.
And are
That's
the
it.
rests actually written out?
Yes. So that's the gist of it.
Gotcha.
This is the difficult part, because if you don't play anything, it's on purpose, right?
Right.
So
So what's the question?
the question
is
is it music?
Is it music? Is it a song?
So, and another great question: is it art? Because this is a hard one.
Right.
This is a hard one. Because, all right, so let me just sum up my thoughts.
Before
As
you
it
do
were.
that, I don't know if you noticed, but I put this painting up on the wall
Oh.
last week.
Dude,
It's
what?
invisible,
That's such a cool thing.
but it took about 50 hours of work.
What a cool painting.
Right.
What the
It's great
heck?
art, isn't it?
Such a good art.
Okay.
Such
what
a
were you
good
saying?
art. Okay, so here's the gist of it. The definition. So before this was written, by a long shot, I forget when exactly this debate was a thing, but music, the definition of what music was, in a similar to way, the way we were just talking about, like we were just kind of questioning what is art, right? So a similar thing happened about music, right? What is music? And this was a long time ago. And again, I don't even know how I would fact check myself on this, so take it with a grain of salt. But from what I recall learning about it, there was a debate about what makes music music, and what they ended on was it had to be written. So, and it had to be able to be defined as music, I guess. It had to be written out, and you needed to be able to read it as music. Okay.
What
So
year
that's-
was this? Do you know?
I think it was like 1700s, late 1700s.
Okay.
Maybe it's in that range.
Right.
So this is ages ago. So fast forward to 1952, and John Cage says, well, I'm going to write some music, and it's going to be rests, and it's just going to be rests the entire time.
Right.
So that's what this song is. It's just rests. So it fits the definition that they decided on. It can be read in a musical way.
Yeah, it's written.
It's all written out exactly how it's supposed to be played,
Right.
right? So that's what it is. And where this gets tricky is, my first thought was, well, whatever it is, it's not music, because silence accentuates sounds in music, right? So rests are a thing, but they exist to highlight sound,
Right. It's creating space in the middle of sound
right?
to emphasize. Well, the space is emphasized by the sound, and sound emphasized by the space.
Which is that's what rhythm is. That's the entire basis of what music is.
Right.
Right. So I would argue that does not even have that because there's no sounds.
I agree.
But
music should be heard. It has to be heard to be
Right.
music. That's my opinion.
But
I don't even. That is a fact.
that is a fact.
I am changing the game here if the game says otherwise. Music has to be heard to be music.
And you heard that here. That is what we said.
That is.
And I would agree with that. But where this gets a little bit more tricky is that second question. We agreed, actually, really quickly. I spent hours debating this with someone, and they firmly believe that it is music, and that's a whole other thing for a whole other time. But is it art? Okay. I would argue that it does qualify in that it is questioning what music is, right? Because it fits the definition of music while also being not music.
Correct.
So there's a narrative there about the perception of music.
Yeah, it's definitely a very challenging. I would say it is art.
Yeah.
It is something presented
It took
in
me a while to
way
get
that
there.
challenges the core of the question itself, which I don't know much about the composer, but
Neither do I.
very well could have been his whole objective.
It might have been.
So it
I'm
is
not sure.
fulfilling a purpose. So I say it's art. You know, a lot of artists that I know are really funny about doing things just to see what other people do with it or how they feel. A lot of artists are practical jokers.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm going to do this just to see.
Bear in mind, he was a experimental composer, so he might have just been full of crap and just making it up as he went along. I don't know.
Have to listen to other work.
Yeah, it seems to me, though, that what he was trying to do was highlight that the very definition was flawed, right? It's a flawed premise because he did everything that said that, oh, it does qualify. But when you listen to it, you go, that's nothing. That like, for it to be music, it needs to be something, right? So that's what I would say.
Right, it is nothing until you look at the score. And
right.
then it's a series of rests all written out.
But you don't experience anything, right?
Right.
So there's no communication happening, which is one of the elements that I would say of what makes art so great is that it's a communication.
Yeah, and music. What is music if it's not heard?
Yeah.
Music has to be sound at some point.
Yeah.
I think.
Word up.
So, should we end it there?
I guess so. I mean, we wrapped that up a lot quicker than I thought we would.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's what it is.
So again, we'd love to hear your guys' comments. What is art to you? What is music to you?
Yeah.
How do you feel about what you've heard today? And I'm sure we'll chop it up and dissect it more as time goes on.
Yeah, the exploration of what is art. What is it? Where is it? Where does it come from? Where does it go?
And again, I have a firm grip on my perspective, but not so firm that I'm not willing to get it jostled.
Yeah, our hands are open
Yes.
so that we can show what's in our hands to other peeps.
Right.
You know, we're like, hey, check this out. Look at what it is. It's right in there. And then people will go, oh, can I see it? Yeah, go ahead, look at it. And then they put it back, and we're like, oh, there it is.
And some people are like, I don't even know if I have anything in my hand. But
So-
this is making me feel like I should put something there.
Yeah, put some in your hand. Did you know that one in the hand is worth two in the bush?
Did you know they're changing? Have you heard of the things that they're changing when it comes to those little
Oh, the
sayings?
PETA list?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you heard any of
such
that?
bull crap, dude.
Such crap.
I mean, so, and also you heard this here too.
Yeah.
I am not a vegan. Animals exist so that I can eat them, in my mind.
Again,
That's pretty much,
why
yeah.
would they taste that way?
Hubris. That is me. Human hubris. I want to eat everything, and it's going to taste good probably.
Yeah, and I'm not hating on you for eating grass or whatever
No,
veggies
not at
you
all.
eat.
You can eat what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to eat what I want.
And if you get meat on your plate, I'm probably going to ask you, you going to eat that? And I'll know the answer, but really what I'm asking is, can I have it?
Also, I just want to point out before we close here
Yeah.
that if a vegan and I are stranded somewhere and we get in like a cannibal situation where like someone dies and we got to eat them, my palate is going to be in a better position
To receive.
because I've been eating meat. But if you're a vegan, your body's going to reject that crap. You're going to get sick. You're going to be like, what am I doing? This is meat. And I'm just going to be eating the person.
Right.
And so I'm going to survive and you're going to die.
And you might have been fine before, and then you die because you get so sick of eating the person.
And then I'll eat you too.
Wow. So here's another question. If they're an artist, do they taste different?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Seasoned.
It tastes worse. Because they're so full of themselves.
Wow. Because they've been eating themselves.
Yeah. They've been digesting their own art.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
Anyway.
So make sure you don't just eat your own art, that you share it with other people.
Eat everyone's art.
It's not meant to be held so tightly that
Just
it does.
like a fart, you must
Let it out.
let it out.
And not just in your own closet and, ew, that's nasty.
Yeah, don't take a fart back in and then eject it again. Just do the one time, walk away. Walk away.
And watch.
Hashtag walk away.
Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, like, all the different things that you can do to let us know how you feel.
Except dislike. Don't do that.
Don't dislike.
I don't like that.
No, we don't like that.
We don't like that at all.
No, share your
We
opinion freely.
dislike that you dislike that.
I don't know where to go
Yeah,
with
we're just keep going on a tangent here.
that. All righty.
All right.
Bye.
See you on the next thing.